Okay, so my name is Gary Parker. I'm the Managing Director of C&T Associates. We are a business support and fundraising company based in Southeast London, where we're broadcasting to you from right now. This year is our 20th year in business, and I work with a number of other colleagues to write funding applications, do funding research, and provide business support to develop your business. If you want to know any further information, contact us directly or look at our website or our YouTube channel. Sybil, do you just want to introduce yourself briefly?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sybil, and I'm running a business called Sybil Tech, which provides website design and development to small businesses. And I've been working with C&T for quite a while now, 2 to 3 years, helping with the IT and technical sides of the business.
Right, we're now going to move into the presentation itself. It's going to cover a number of issues, including what is e-commerce, introduction to Shopify, where Sybil's going to explain the key elements of it. Then I'm going to explain something about funding and related issues. Then there will be a question and answer session. Sybil and I will ask each other some questions first, and then you'll get a chance after the next steps part of it. And then, as I say, questions from you as attendees, and then our offer slide will be there and other contact information. So we'll move on now to the next slide, and over to you, Sybil.
Thank you, Gary. So let's begin with e-commerce and what it actually means. So here is one definition. E-commerce is the buying and selling of goods and services over the internet. It's conducted over computers, tablets, smartphones, and other smart devices. Almost anything can be purchased through e-commerce today, and it can be a substitute for brick and mortar stores, though some businesses choose to maintain both. So just to summarize, e-commerce is the buying and selling of products online. Next slide, please. So there are several different types of e-commerce, and here are the most common ones. So B2C is selling from a business to an individual consumer, for example, a supermarket. There's B2B, which is one business selling to another business online, and this includes wholesale buying. C2B is a consumer selling to a business. One example of this could be a stock photography site such as iStock Photo, where consumers create images and photos which are then sold to businesses. And lastly, there's C2C, which is consumers selling to one another, for example, marketplaces like eBay, Facebook Marketplace, even Amazon. Next slide, please, Gary. What are the benefits of e-commerce? So selling online gives you many different advantages, and here are a few of them. So you'll have low overheads compared with running a physical store. Your store will be accessible to customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can manage your business from anywhere in the world as long as you have a compatible device and an internet connection. You could potentially reach an international audience, or at least you can reach customers who are outside of your local area. It's easier to track analytics and customer behavior, and there's various different tracking software you can install on your site. For example, Google Analytics or Shopify also gives you some analytics information, so you can track how your customers behave and use your website. And also, it's possible to start an e-commerce business without having any products. So if you don't have products to sell, then you might want to try drop shipping, and we'll explain that in a bit more detail later on in the webinar. Next slide, please, Gary. So there's many different types of e-commerce platforms out there today, but we're going to focus on one of them called Shopify, which you may have heard of. So what is it? Shopify is a complete e-commerce platform, and it allows you to sell in multiple places, including online and in person. It was founded in 2006, and today there are millions of businesses around the world in more than 170 countries. And together they've made over 444 billion US dollars in sales just using Shopify. So you can see how large Shopify has grown and the potential for businesses to make money through this platform. Next slide, please. Now, we're going to why we should be using Shopify. And there's many reasons why you would want to do that. So first of all, it's completely cloud-based and it's hosted. So you don't need to worry about upgrading or maintaining any software or web servers, or because all of the maintenance is done for you. You don't need to be a web designer or developer to create your store, because all of the themes are highly customizable without the need for editing any code. Very little technical skill is required. However, if you do find that when creating your online store, you need some help with setting it up or adding some, making changes to any code, then we are able to help you with that. So please get in touch if you need that support. Shopify can be used from any laptop, desktop, smartphone or tablet, so it's compatible with a range of devices. And all you need is an internet connection and products to sell, and you're good to go. Next slide, please, Gary. And there are further benefits of using Shopify. There's no limit on the numbers of products you can sell in your store. It's very easy to manage products and accept payments. It also supports selling to international markets. So there's a feature called Shopify Markets, which allows you to sell in multiple currencies. And you can also translate your store into different foreign languages that you can optimize your store for selling internationally. It includes excellent marketing and SEO tools. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, which is the practice of optimizing your site and helping it to rise in the Google rankings, so that when people are searching for particular keywords, your store is more likely to be found through search. There are thousands of apps to choose from the Shopify App Store if you need more features. So Shopify is a solution that allows you to start selling straight out of the box after you've done some setting up. But if you find that you need some more functionality, then there's lots of apps you can choose from. There are free as well as paid apps on the Shopify App Store. And finally, you get access to the Shopify support team 24/7. So you can contact them via chat, email, or through the community forums. So help is always at hand. Next slide, please, Carrie. Now, how much does Shopify cost? So just to give you an idea of how much this will cost you, Shopify offers different plans, but I'd recommend starting on the basic plan, which usually costs £25 per month. However, there's a very good offer at the moment where you can get the basic plan for only £1 per month for the first 3 months. So I highly recommend you make use of that if you want to try out Shopify. Or another option is they are offering a free trial for 3 days. We can try out the platform without entering any credit card information. And also, when you make a sale on Shopify, you are charged a small fee. So there's a credit card rate of 2% plus 25p per transaction, which is relatively small. That's how the prices work. Next slide, please, Carrie. Now, I just want to mention a business model that has become more popular recently, which is called drop shipping. Now, if you don't already have any products to sell, then you might want to try drop shipping. So the way this works is there's 4 steps here. First step is the customer places an order on your store. The second step is the order gets sent to the supplier for them to process. The third step is the order gets packed and then finally gets dispatched and sent directly to the customer. So the huge benefit of this is that the products are sent directly from your supplier to your customers, and you never have to manage any of the inventory or handle any of the logistics yourself. So you don't need to handle the physical products. All that is dealt with by the supplier. You only buy the products once you make a sale. So what that means is once someone places an order on your store, that's the only time when you need to actually purchase and pay for the products to your supplier. And depending on how you want to source the products, there are different apps that you can use. And here are a couple of examples: AliExpress, and there's Printful, which is a print-on-demand service. So, yeah, highly recommend checking out drop shipping if you want to start an e-commerce store, but you don't want to handle the physical products. Okay, so that completes the first part of the presentation about e-commerce. So now I'm going to hand back over to Gary to talk about funding.
Thank you, Sybil. There will be, for those of you who've just joined us, there will be time to ask any questions after both presentations have finished and after we've asked each other a couple of questions. So we're going to start off with the obvious. Why do you need funding? There are many reasons, but here are some of them. Funding and help to support the development of your project and make it operational. So you may have some startup funding. This will add to it if you can access it from other sources. You may have no startup funding. So this is an alternative that may arise because of necessity. There's different types of funding. But for example, grant funding, which I'll explain in a minute, can help to facilitate your project. There are other forms of finance which are available too, and there's a range of potential funders that may be able to provide support, but they all have terms and conditions. If you're not aware of that, you need to consider this carefully, and they're all often quite different. So what types of funding are there? Well, grants. Grants are non-repayable and usually have stipulations on what the money can be spent on, because I've had some clients think that, especially from public funds, if they access them, they can spend them on what they like. That's not always true. You might have to stipulate a budget, and with bigger funders like the lottery, for example, you have to stick to that budget and spend the money exactly as specified. And they have a big issue if you don't do that. Secondly, loans. Loans are repayable sums of money for a project or business. A grant's non-repayable, but a loan is. You have to make an application for funding, and again, terms and conditions are usually attached to any successful application. And of course, there are other issues as well, like rates of interest and whether it's secured or unsecured. So again, on all of these, you have to do your homework. And I'll show you some slides shortly. Another way that is very popular these days is crowdfunding, which are donations or investments made via a platform or angel investor program. Some platforms charge fees depending on what you raise. Normally on crowdfunding, they don't charge you upfront, but they will take a percentage of what you raise. But again, with crowdfunding, there's lots of issues around that as well. If you look on our YouTube channel, there are other presentations where we explain some of the key elements of crowdfunding. Angel investment, what's that? An angel investor is someone who invests their own money in a small business or project in exchange for a minority stake in it, usually between 10 and 25%. So they could own 10 to 25% of your business if they invest in it. And again, with angel investment, there are a lot of terms and conditions, and the investors invest to make money. And if they're not making money, they could seek other concessions, i.e. like having a bigger stake in the business, or even taking it over and running it in some cases, but obviously it depends on how successful it is. So there's some different types of funding. All will generate revenue for your business, but in quite diverse ways. Let's have a look at some sources of funding for e-commerce businesses. I mean, fundraising, if you're new to it, it's a big subject and we've got very limited time. So here are some key sites that I would point you in the direction of. The first one is UK Research and Investment, which is a government site which has got funding of many types on it. It's all government research and development funds are on there, including Innovate UK, which some of you will know about, which is another tech funder. You get to Innovate UK through UKRI. The next one is the Entrepreneur's Handbook, which is good anyway for entrepreneurial support and advice, but it also has 60 pages of grant funding on it all over the UK. Another good site is Sage Advice, which is run by the online accounting software company Sage. So obviously they've got a big interest in small businesses developing. The next is the London Business Hub, which is a business support site run by the Mayor of London's office. And that's got a lot of very useful information and support across the piece, really, in terms of business support and development. The next one, for those of you who are under 30, is the Prince's Trust, and you can get some grants for that. They're available in some areas, but not necessarily in others. There are loan funds because they tend to focus on the most disadvantaged areas and locations. And in other places, grant funding may not be available, but loan funding is potentially. And the final one here is the Government Grants Hub, which is the government website where you can do a customized search, one which I would recommend as well. That's a very good site. So there's 6 places to start. There are other sites, but you know, as I said earlier, this is a big subject, and those are good places to start. Here's some other sites you might want to have consideration for. This is a website called startups.co.uk, which tells you how to apply for a grant. We do presentations on funding and bid writing on our YouTube channel, which if you go onto YouTube, just search for C&T Associates, and there's 30 presentations on there. And then you've got the British Business Bank finance options. That is a good site. The British Business Bank works with, it's a government related organisation that works with other financial institutions to fund businesses, and it first became prominent during the pandemic a couple of years ago. Again, it's well worth checking out. And the final site here is from an organisation called Simply Business, which gives a very good article on small business grants. So all of the links in the last two slides I would recommend. Here is another organisation that actually do some work for the British Library on and off. One of the most important things in business, and especially in tech businesses, is your intellectual property. Guarding against it is guarding against your intellectual property being copied or utilized by somebody else is a key issue. So you can get lots of free advice from the British Library on this. If you go to a lawyer, you will get charged a significant amount of money. One of my clients last year paid £3,000 to a lawyer for advice he could probably got from the British Library, or indeed from my friends at FSB in some circumstances as well, as part of your membership fee. So there are other alternatives, and the British Library has a lot of online support, and of course you can actually go there and utilise what they have, and they often have programs running. They had one in local libraries in 2021 and part of 22, that offering some support to business owners in the creative sector at the moment. Over a 3-month period, they show how to become more financially resilient, adaptable and entrepreneurial. So this is good support from the British Library, which I would recommend, and most of it is free as well, which is always good. So this is a bit more about UKRI. They, as I say, this is a government-backed website, and it offers funding and support across a whole range of areas, including developing people and skills, international infrastructure, research, culture, impact, etc. And it's well worth looking at. There's a lot of information on that site. It's not widely publicised, but it's definitely worth looking at, and is a good gateway to other funders like Innovate UK, who are a big tech funding organisation backed by the government. If you want to write a funding application, and this is an area that C&T have got a lot of experience in, so if you want to come to us, we can do it for you for a price, of course. But if you want to do it yourself, what do you need to do? Well, there's a number of key elements here. First, you've got to identify the funders that are right for your business or project. You'll probably need to apply to a range of funders, especially if you've got no track record, as first-time success is hard to achieve, though it's not impossible. But obviously, it's more difficult than if you've got a track record and an experienced bid writer. There are many funders out there, but you'll need to find the ones that are suitable for your project. So you've got to match their priorities to yours, basically, and then apply on that basis. You need to consider what you need, why you need funding, and what for. In other words, you need to fashion a budget, you need to break it down, and you need to make the case for receiving that funding. You may also need a business plan, or what's more common in tech projects and e-commerce these days is what's called a pitch deck, which is a short presentation about the key features of your business, project, etc., and possibly some other elements of your business need to be described in your pitch deck, or certainly in your business plan, depending on the nature of the business. You need to write an application that is clear and succinct, and that anyone who is not familiar with your business or project can understand. What we do here at C&T is we give it to our colleagues to read. They may spot a few typos as well, but if they understand it and they've had no direct input to it or not previously read it, then you've done your job. Because if it's too complex and people find difficulty grasping it, it's not going to succeed. Because remember, who you're fielding the application to may have hundreds of bids to read and assess. So the more straightforward it is, the better. Some tips on writing a successful funding application. The gap between success and failure in this area is very slight. It's marginal. If you get hundreds of applications, it's a bit like a job interview. It's not an inclusive process. It's designed to knock you out. So detail is important. Get the detail right. If you're not good on details, get somebody who is to proofread it for you. If they understand it, then you're on the right track. Many bids fail for two reasons. What are they, or what do you think they are? Well, it's quite surprising, but quite simple. One is not getting the application in on time, because most bids are deadlined. Not all of them are deadlined. And there are some that roll on frequently, like lottery bids that are always on the go, but many others aren't. And the other is if it requires a signature, people don't sign it. And the reason that funders like signatures, if they request it on applications, whether electronic or written, is that the terms and conditions are legally binding. And if you've not signed up to them, they won't fund you. So just by addressing those two issues, you've improved your chances of succeeding by at least 10%. So there's a free tip today. Okay, that's the end of the funding part. I'm now going to ask Sybil a couple of questions. Sybil, what are the things I need to consider when starting an e-commerce business?
Yes, so when you're starting out in your e-commerce business, there's a few things you need to think about. So these include what products you're going to be selling, what prices you'll be selling them at, and who is your target market. So who are the people you think, or who are the people you would ideally like to purchase your products or services? And this could be things like where they're located geographically, what are their interests, like what sorts of other products do they buy, where do they shop, what is their income, what's their age group, etc. Because this is going to affect the types of products you're selling and the prices you'll be charging. Other things you might want to think about are what platforms you're going to be selling on. So obviously you will need your e-commerce store, but there's other platforms around, such as social media, for example, which we'll also talk about in a second. Other things are how much time do you have to to work on your business. That's also an important thing. And if you're selling products rather than services, also suppliers, you need to be looking for suppliers to source your products for.
Thank you, Sybil. Second question is, what are the alternatives to Shopify?
Yes, so as mentioned earlier, there are several platforms out there today, but one of the other very popular alternatives is called WooCommerce. So WooCommerce is a WordPress plugin. So it actually works in a very different way to Shopify. So whereas Shopify is Shopify is hosted, so they own the platform. You simply create an account on their site, and then you instantly have an e-commerce store. Whereas WooCommerce, in order to use it, you have to have a WordPress website set up first. Then you install the plugin and that essentially converts your WordPress site into an e-commerce store. And one of the main difference is that Shopify charges a monthly fee, whereas WooCommerce is actually a free plugin. So you're not going to pay any extra for it unless you decide to purchase any of their plugins. Most of their plugins are paid for. So those are the main differences between the two.
Okay, thank you for that. Third question is, can I sell my products on social media?
And the answer to that is yes, you certainly can. So with Shopify, there are integrations. So once you've set up your Shopify store, you can connect it to Facebook and Instagram, for instance. So what this does is it will sync all of your products up between the two platforms. So then people are able to buy your products directly from Facebook or directly from Instagram. So the answer to that is yes, you can.
Okay, thank you for that, Sybil. Now we'll move on to questions for me.
Thank you, Gary. So my first question for Gary is, what is the difference between a grant and a loan?
Yeah, this is something that I just wanted to reinforce, and that I put in the presentation. A grant, you apply for a grant to a range of organisations. It could be government or local authority, it could be a charitable trust, it could be a private trust or organisation. But a grant is non-repayable. You get the money for a specific project, but it does have terms and conditions. And in most cases, whatever you put forward and whatever budget you put forward, the money has to be spent on that. Some are less restrictive on spending than others, but you have to do that. With a loan, I mean, people are more familiar with loans. A loan is a sum of money for in business for a project or business. That is repayable at a rate of interest. But again, obviously you need to shop around for that. And it also comes with terms and conditions, and there are different types of loans. There's secured loans, which might have to be secured against, in some cases, a property, or could be shares, or could be an insurance policy or something like that. But usually it's in many cases it's against property. An unsecured loan, often at high rates of interest, is not secured to any other asset you may have normally, but there may be other terms and conditions to it. But a loan is repayable at a rate of interest, and a grant is not, basically.
Thanks, Gary. The second question is, how do you know which funders to apply to?
That is down to your research. What we do here at CNT is that we have our own databases and sources of information, and we also subscribe to a range of publications. Some are free and some you have to pay for. Again, we can advise on that. One of our services is that we produce fundraising reports, because some organizations we work with just write the bids themselves, but they want to know sources of funding, because that does take some research for particular projects, and some projects are less funded than others, or there's less funding available for them than other projects. So you need to identify potential funders by research, and then you basically need to match the requirements of the funder to your requirements, because don't just assume because you might find a tech funder, for example, that they're going to adhere to your project. They may only fund certain projects, they might have other terms and conditions on it, or there may be other things in the specification that you need to be aware of. Once you've identified funders, then you need to carefully review the terms and conditions of that funder. But you do need to do your research on this, and it can take some time if you're starting from scratch.
Thank you, Gary. And the final question is, how easy is it to write a funding application?
It depends, I suppose. I mean, what I would advise people who are new to this is to apply for small amounts of money if you can identify them, for two reasons. One is they're often easier to write. I've come across some online ones, particularly that are like, 2 screens of information to fill in, so it doesn't necessarily take long, although you don't have to do a draft and prepare it. That builds up your bid writing experience, and it also, if you get these small amounts of money, you can show a track record, because it's like any other business. If you go into the bank and asking for £1 million as a new business, that could be problematic, because you've got no track record with that particular business, although you might have a previous track record. Whereas if you apply for £10,000 for a loan, you might get that based on making a good case for it. And it's the same in fundraising. If you haven't got a track record, I'm often approached by charities who say, oh, we want to apply for the main strand of the lottery, which is £500,000. Well, I'm often saying to them, that's going to be very difficult to achieve, and you need to look at smaller amounts if you've got no track record. If you have got a track record, then that's a different matter. So there's a lot of factors that can impact on writing a funding application, but the process is fairly straightforward. It just needs to be adopted and applied, and you need to have an eye for detail. There is a presentation on our YouTube channel for CNT Associates about writing a bid, and indeed we are running a session on this next month on the 23rd of February. If you want to join us for that, what is probably our most popular presentation online, but it's on our YouTube channel. If you do go to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to it and like it, which of course are all free. I'm just going to look in the chat now, because it seems to be yeah, I'm going to go back to those. There's one question. I'm going to go back to that in the open-ended part of it in a minute. So those are the 3 questions to me from Sybil. Thank you for those. The next slide is our special offer today. You'll get this in an email after this is finished. This is on the C&T Associates website as well, on our store button. If you want to look at other offers on there, please do. But this is our Shopify Gold package, in which you get a live one-to-one demo on Shopify, which is 1.5 hours. We go through it with you, the complete video course, and an introduction to LinkedIn and Instagram PowerPoint, 2 hours of consulting time, our funding guide, which is here. Is that, if you can see that, that usually retails for £15 plus packaging and posting if you buy a hard copy. A business growth guide, which is similar to that, and a presentation on tech funding and business funding. Normally, that, if you look on our website, it's £250 plus VAT, but it's available to you for £200 plus VAT. But that offer is only valid for 48 hours. So if you want to avail yourselves of that, please visit the C&T Associates website and apply the discount code at the checkout. Okay, we'll now take any questions from people. There was one in the chat that I'm going to go back to. First is from Warren. If you have experience in public funding loans for community projects, would you say these skills are transferable for business grant, loan application and bid writing? Yes, I mean, in that the process is still similar. You have to make a case for support or a case for the funding, but loans are different than grant funding, and there tends to be more of a focus on the social impact of projects, rather than just the financial aspects of it, although it does vary from funder to funder. But generally speaking, yes, the transferable skills are there, but you have to focus on certain areas more than others without going into a lot of detail. I've got one from Karen. When was the funding guide last updated? We're actually in the process of updating it right now. The basic elements, of course, are still in the current one, and it is about 20 pages, but funding does change quite a lot. That's why we give coaching support as well, and you'll get an offer for coaching as well in the email we're going to receive. Warren says, sorry, I've got another question here. How many years of accounts do I need before applying for funding? My business is only 1.5 years old. Would it be better to apply for funding with another business that has been running for over 3 years instead? That is a very good question. I think the answer to that is it depends. But yeah, if you've got accounts, then it just does show a track record for your business, which is something that the funders will take into account. But for example, there are funders that support startups, and obviously startups don't have a track record, or if they do have a track record, they might not have a year's accounts yet. So I think it does depend, but generally speaking, yes, if you've got another business with a track record, that might be a better bet. But it also depends on what those businesses do, because, for example, if it's a tech business, there is more potential funding out there for tech businesses and for some other areas as well, like well-being organizations, and some others. got a question from Warren here. Would previous experience of being trusted with government funds allow more trust between a new business and a grant loan funder? You could put it in the application. Anything that could help your case should be put in the application. I wouldn't necessarily think it would necessarily improve your case, but it certainly wouldn't harm it. But it does depend on the terms and conditions of the funders. I goes on to say, I know this helps with the community funds, but would it count for business funds? I think the answer to that, again, is possibly. It depends on the attitude of the funders. Jill White says, which funders would you recommend me to research as a startup? I think what you need to do is you need to look at the funders I've highlighted today on those two slides. They are very good places to start, and they are gateways to some other sites as well. So all of the ones, I hope you were taking notice of that. What we are doing after this is we'll send you a summary of the slides, but it won't have all the details in. You can get the presentation for us either as part of the package, or you can buy it separately from us. There's details of our website, or you can contact us directly about that. Just check if there's any more questions. Yeah, I think that's it now. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel. I'm going to stop my screen share here. Do you want to share a presentation, Rachel, or are you speaking?
I'll probably just speak. I might share the website at some point. So.
Okay, over to you.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everybody. For those of you that I've not met before, my name is Rachel Barham. I'm actually a membership advisor for the Federation of Small Businesses. Just in case you don't know who FSB are, we're actually a not-for-profit campaigning group, but we have small business at our core. So everything we do is focused on self-employed and small businesses in the UK. I'm not going to go into the lobbying and campaigning side of things, because I think many of you are probably new into business. But we provide our members a package of benefits that's there to support you with your business, because quite often when individuals set up businesses, they're quite shocked actually about how many hats that they've got to wear and how they've suddenly got to be experts in so many different areas. So FSB put together all of these different benefits that you can turn to and get the advice and support that you need when you come across these issues or questions. They're all business related. So I think the most obvious one, and especially some of the comments that Gary's made today, legals. We give our members free business legal advice, because you're going to be at some point, whether you're using one of the e-commerce sites, be signing into a contract, or you're going to be agreeing to their terms and conditions. If you're confident in reading them and doing that yourself, brilliant. I think even if when you're not confident in doing that, you should still read it so that you at least know what you're agreeing to. But seek advice, because once you've said yes to it, it's a bit late to then try and backtrack on it. So as a member, you would be able to call the legal helpline, which is 24/7, because not everybody's business is 9 to 5. And you would be able to ask the question. So it might be, if you've got a set of terms and conditions, for example, that there's maybe one clause that you're not quite sure on what it means or what you're agreeing to. You would actually be able to have that conversation with a qualified, experienced solicitor, and they would be able to talk you through it. If you want them to actually review a whole contract or set T's and C's for you, they can do that. The difference is that they would charge, because that is, I suppose, more work involved. But they would do it at preferential rates. So it's all about saving you money as a member as well. So you have the two options depending on your budget. You can either have conversations with the legal helpline and they can explain the areas that you're unsure of, or they can do a whole review for you where there would be a charge, but at a lower rate than they would normally. There's also support, I think, on one of Gary's slides, he mentioned about policies. We have what's called the Legal Hub, and on there, as a member, you would have access to about 1,400 different documents. Probably 50% of them are fact sheets and guides, so they're there to answer the questions and upskill your knowledge in certain areas. The other half are actually templates. So if you're looking for policies, there will be a lot of those already on the portal that you would be able to download free of charge as a member. They're also kept up to date for you. So if anything changes, we will change that on there, and you can literally just download the latest version. So it's one of those. Documents and legals can be the most expensive part in running a business. Lots of it you actually get for free as an FSB member. And for anybody that is an FSB member or I've spoken to before, you'll know actually our annual membership cost is less than an hour's call to a solicitor, and you would have it on tap 24/7. Another big area that I think quite a few e-commerce businesses don't always think about is actually their insurances. Because if you're selling things to people, you do need to actually look at what insurances you've got in place. I don't want to give examples because you're probably all looking at doing something totally different. But if, for example, well, I say I'm not going to give you examples and then promptly go and do that, don't I? But if you're looking at, say, products, it might be that someone has a bad reaction to a product. They're coming straight back to you as you're the person that's provided it to them. But it could also be supplier type issues. There's lots of different reasons why you need insurances in place. So as a member, you would have access to FSB insurance services. They can give you a health check so that they understand exactly what your business is going to be doing, and talk you through what insurances you should have, because it's not as easy as you think when you Google it and try and find out online. There's lots of these different packages out there, but it's not tailored to your business. So FSB can actually talk you through the insurances you should have. They can quote you for them. You can still go off, do your own due diligence. If we're not the cheapest, you don't have to take it through us. But either way, they will still act as a point of contact for you. So if you ever have issues or you've got further questions, you can still call them and seek the advice that you need. Being that this is a funding webinar, one of the other benefits that's in there for members, we have FSB funding platform. Now, unfortunately, it's not grant funding and they aren't necessarily able to help startups. They focus more on debt funding and asset funding. So yes, they have to be repaid, but the difference is with FSB providing this type of funding, there will be no charge for you. So they will provide all the advice and support that you need. Unlike other financial brokers or advisors, when they say they're not charging you a fee, they're obviously getting a fee from the provider. What most people don't realise is the interest rate that they're quoting you will have been inflated to cover that fee. So if you'd have gone direct to the provider, you would have got it slightly cheaper. With FSB, the interest rate that we quote you does not change. You could go direct to that lender and you would get it for exactly the same. So there is no charges from us. But they will look at their panel of lenders, see what's right for you. Secondly, when you do apply for a loan or a commercial mortgage via the FSB funding platform, initially it's all done anonymously. So when you fill in your details, FSB funding will be able to work out what your credit rating is. So when they send it out to the panel of lenders, they don't know it's you. So it doesn't leave a mark on your credit rating. So the only time they actually get to find out it is you is when you actually say, yes, that's the one I want, press go. And then, of course, they have to fill in all of those details. But as long as you've filled in everything truthfully and as much information as possible, they can get an accurate credit rating for you. And then you can find out which lenders are willing to lend you that money on the term that you're after. There's loads of other benefits. There's about 26 different benefits that come with membership. Some of them are not going to be relevant to your business, but because membership is personal, if you do have other businesses or further down the line you set up an additional business, you don't need another membership. It will cover you for that as well. So there's lots of different things in there, whether it's debt recovery, whether it's assistance with card machines, whether you actually need support for yourself, because as business owners, quite often we forget to look after ourselves. There's support in there for that as well. And there is absolutely loads of knowledge sharing and courses that you can do. Growing your business, we do lots and lots of networking. So if you do want to practice promoting your business, book yourself onto any of the FSB networking. You don't actually have to be a member to attend it. If we're doing any face-to-face ones, quite often there's a charge, because if a venue's charged us or if there's food put on, members will get it cheaper than non-members. But if it's not costing us anything, then we won't pass anything on to you, because we're not for profit. Have a look at the FSB website. I'll give you a very, very quick site of it just so you can see. The site is fsb.org.uk. When you go onto the FSB website, it will normally take you to the campaign section. I won't go into that bit because it can be quite confusing at this stage, but if any of you are startups, there is a startup hub on there as well, which gives you lots of different points and guides of what to do. FSB events is where you'll find our events. You can attend any of them, so it doesn't have to be local, and especially being in e-commerce, it's not like you need to visit potential people that might be buying from you. So you can literally book onto anything, but you can also narrow it down in the region section if you do want to keep it local. But one bit that I want to draw your attention to is the Knowledge Hub, because there is so much free information on here, and there might be areas where actually you think, I just want to upskill myself before I start my business, or I've started my business and I know I'm a bit weak here. There's quite a lot of useful information. There's masterclasses, there's webinars. We record a lot of them, so they then go on to here as well. On-demand webinars and business guides is a perfect one. And there's also some free training from some of the big major players out there. So if you do need some digital advice, there's lots that you can access, okay? I'll stop there. Cost of membership starts from £147 plus a £30 joining fee if you don't have employees. It would be brilliant to have a chat with any of you that might be interested, so that I can understand what your business is going to be doing, and then I can also talk through which benefits are relevant to you and any of the additional ones that maybe I haven't touched on today. There's never an obligation to join. I'm very much, let's find out how we can help you, and then it's your decision. But if you've got any questions, either fire away, drop me a message. I'm on most of the social media platforms as well, so you can find me wherever you look. But I'll stop there, Gary, and I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions for Rachel? I can't see any right now. Rachel's put her details in the chat, or if you want them, we can supply them as well. Like I said earlier, I'm an FSB member, and I've been a member for many years, probably longer than Rachel's been a member. Sybil, you've got a question. Sorry,
not a question, but Gary, if you could put your contact details as well into the chat or on the screen.
Yes, I will do that right now. Jill White asks, Rachel, is your fee monthly or annually?
The fee is annual. You do have two ways you can pay for it, although it is always in full for the year. If you do it by direct debit, depending when you join, it won't come out straight away because of direct debit mandate. So there's at least a 10-day working day period before the funds will come out, but it would be the full amount, and then it would renew each year subject to you cancelling that. Or you can pay by card, which obviously comes out straight away, and it can be paid on debit or credit card. So the 147 plus £30 joining fee. £30 joining fee is only in year one. Occasionally, I have times when I can waive it, which I can do today, but unfortunately it ends today. So I didn't want to sort of mention that one because I don't want pressure on anybody. But it goes up based on number of employees. But I've made an assumption that you don't have employees. If you do, then obviously I can quote people what it would be with employees as well.
Okay, Thank you very much. And we've run exactly to time with the 1 hour. As I said at the beginning, for those of you who missed it, this presentation will go on our YouTube channel, and it may go on other platforms as well. So you will get a chance to see it eventually. You will get an offer from us very, very shortly, and there are other offers on our website as well. If you just go to cntassociates.com and hit the shop button, they're all there for you to see, but I would urge you to look at the special offer we've got for you today, because that only lasts 48 hours. And thank you, Jill, for saying brilliant event. Gary and Sybil, many thanks, it's much appreciated. And I'd like to personally thank Sybil and Rachel, as usual, for coming on here today. And please consider joining FSB if you're not a member. And thank you. Warren says thank you for all your time. Our next webinar, just before I sign off, is on the 23rd of February. It is a free one again, and it's how to write a funding application or bid writing for beginners. I appreciate everybody joining us today, and I hope you will join that one and register as soon as you can, because that is one of our most popular webinars. So speak to you all soon. If you need any further information or advice, please contact Rachel direct to join FSB, or if you're too scared of her, you can try myself or Sybil, and we'll meekly forward the email to her.
Didn't realise I was that scary.
No, you're not, Rachel. Rachel is very approachable. Take it from me. She's not a hard sell person. Definitely not. Okay. Thank you very much for all joining us today, and I hope to see you again soon. And please consider those offers. Thank you very much. Bye.